On this. Thank you for being here today. This is one of the ways that I wanted to honor the 1212 portal that is open today. Astrologically and numerologically, this is a powerful day. Any of the double numbers, 1111, 1010, 1212, and in particular, today is 121221. So essentially a repeating pattern of numbers. And I'm also here to do this today because somehow out of nowhere, we are at the end of 2021 and approaching 2022. And this is normally the time of year that I like to get into doing what I refer to as stellar planning. And so today's presentation is going to be about just that. Stellar planning for 2022 and how it can really be a game changer for you to help supercharge the results that you want to see in the coming year. And rolling off of the last 2 years, I am sure all of us would appreciate a bit more of that. So to that end, let's see, I'm gonna get in here and get us ready to get started with my slideshow. All right, and please do excuse me as I may be taking brief pauses to let everyone in. Yes. Yep, if you could mute yourself. Thank you. Let's see if I can do that for you. All right, there we go. So, and let's see, I'm gonna mute all just to make sure that doesn't happen as we move ahead and get started with the presentation. So again, today we're here to talk about stellar planning for 2022. A really surefire plan to be able to supercharge your New Year's with astrology. Welcome again to everyone who is here. I am so happy to have you. I'm assuming that you're here either because you have an interest in getting a good start on the new year, an interest in astrology, or some of both. I hope by the end of this presentation, I will have provided you with some really valuable pieces of information that you can take away and use immediately as my gift to you again for the 1212 portal. So what we'll be covering today is a little bit about my background, what is stellar planning and why it's amazing, giving you a brief overview of the astrology of 2022 and the lead up to it. Then we'll be covering the retrogrades in 2022, working with the new and full moons, working with planetary days, applied astrology and the stellar year blueprint, and last but not least, how you can work with me in the upcoming year. So a little bit about me. I'm Melissa. I'm a professional astrologer and coach at 8thHouseWisdom.com. I'm an astrology instructor at thewisdombeacon.com and an integrative and licensed psychotherapist in Washington, D.C., and a health and lifestyle coach at Wisdom Integrative Wellness. Ooh, excuse me, give me 1 second. I've got to let someone in and it's not letting me get there. All right, oops. I think I'm gonna have to, there we go, admit. We may have to look at the slideshow this way so I can do double duty, but that's okay. So I'm also a licensed desire map facilitator. I've been doing working with the desire map since 2018. I'm an intuitive card reader, a partner in a salon and hair extension boutique, Sacred Locks Hair. I love beauty and health. Clearly, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I'm also a trained educator and former professional developer. So I bring a lot of that insight into what I'm doing here to share with you all. Oh, okay. So now it's not being my friend. Okay, I guess I need to put it in play mode. There we go. Try that again. Okay. So the what and the why of stellar planning. Stellar planning is really an applied astrology formula that allows you to plan your year, your month, your week, and your day according to the astro weather and dealing with, I think, the things that we don't normally have a tendency to work with when we are planning. It's our kind of a missing piece. Stellar planning also works to align you to the natural and universal cycles. And I think that is the missing piece because calendars and calendar alerts and phones have become tools that we rely on for time management and scheduling, but they should actually be informed by what's going on in the environment and what's going on in the cosmic or astro weather. When we do that, we have a fuller picture and the things that we plan have a tendency to go better. And that's why stellar planning can create a greater flow in how you schedule your life events and work on your goals. Because when you have those pieces of information, you have more of an inside track as to how things are going to go and move. And you can do stellar planning all alone by just taking a view of what's going on within the skies or the astral weather for right now. But it is even more powerful when you apply it to your birth chart. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the astrology of 2020 through 2022. And I'm taking it back 2 years, not to make us shell shocked, but just to show you how the years have been moving and growing, because energy in astrology moves in a cycle, and to inform where we're at right now. The astrology of 2020 was a cosmic storm. We had Pluto, the planet of transformation, Saturn, the planet of limits and structure, and Jupiter, the planet of expansion, all in grandfather time Capricorn, which is also known as the Great Malefic. Capricorn is about tradition, about structure, slow to change. Good fences make good neighbors. And so it's no wonder that 2020 was marked by a global pandemic, shutdowns, quarantining, and literally being in the house. We ended the year with a every 20-year event, which was Saturn and Jupiter moving into the Great Conjunction. That means they were both in the same sign and very close to each other. That happens every 20 years as a cycle event. And it was just before they were on their way moving into Aquarius. So not only was it a every 20-year cycle, but it was the start of a new cycle of where both of those planets would be minus retrogrades. That meant that 2021 was a year where we kind of deepened overturning traditions, and which is again Saturn, and squaring off, which means tension against Uranus, the planet of disruption, revolution, and eccentricity. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, which is why many of my Aquarian friends or fellow listeners tend to enjoy dancing to the beat of their own drum and are happy being outside of the normal confines. They like to be different and eccentric. But when you have the planet of limits and structure who does not like to change, and the planet of let's change everything and start a revolution, mashing up with each other, you get some really tense energy. That event is happening 3 times this year. We've already experienced the first meetup in February. There's the second meetup in June was marked by the kind of peaking. So I'll talk about next slide is the Delta variant. And we have one more meeting that we're expecting, which is on December 24th, so Christmas Eve, for those of you who celebrate it, which may bring us some additional fireworks. Some other important things to note, just to remind people or demonstrate to people some of the accuracy of astrology, is the day Uranus, the planet of revolution and disruption, entered Taurus, another traditional sign that represents security and what makes us feel safe. That was January 6th. And literally that day here in the United States, we had the Capitol insurgency, and multiple other nations, the Philippines and other people across the globe, started experiencing issues with the people's will against the government's clashes. And one of the important things to note about planets that are outer planets, and we consider the outer planets to be those that are a lot further away and not as easily visible to the eye. So Jupiter and Saturn, which used to be the only outer planets until later years, and then came Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. But when those planets have interactions with each other, not only do they show up across a generation, but they're usually the things that impact and are directly correlated to world events happening. So like I said, around June, after, popping up in the spring, the Delta variant, and by June, we had really hit a peak with that, especially in other places in the globe. I know we're still working through that here in the US. But all of that is to say that we were working through some really tough energies, limits, revolution, and squares, which are tense aspects in 2020 and 2021. However, 2022 is going to be dominated by Jupiter, the great benefic or positive planet. And it's going to be moving through the signs of Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, and Aries, the first sign. So it's going to introduce more luck and expansion, because that's what Jupiter does. It expands. And we're going to have more luck and expansion into our subconscious mind, which is one of the areas the Pisces rules. And additionally, in our bodies and our sense of self, which is an area of that Aries rules. We will need to expand our minds and fuel our imagination to create the new world awaiting us after all the dismantling that happened in 2020 and 2021. As adults, many of us are not as used to interacting or dealing with our imagination, and we don't always get a chance to play the way that we want to, but it's going to be really important for us to take that into consideration and to engage our dreams and subconscious so that we can really make good use of the energy coming in 2022. So that was a bit of an overview. Here I wanted to highlight some of the major aspects of 2022, and do not worry about feeling the need to grab all of this information. An email should have gone out to you that will give you access to the worksheet for this, which I will also drop into the chat when we leave. It will be useful for you to use after the presentation, as well as since you're here, you're going to get access to the Stellar Year Blueprint. So that will come as well, and you will be able to take a look at both of those. Also, just checking the chat because I saw that there might be a question. But jumping back into this, Jupiter is going to, the planet of expansion, is going to harmoniously will meet up with Uranus, the planet of revolution. And that's going to happen in February 17th, 2022. Jupiter will also conjunct as one. That's what conjunction means. They'll be in the same sign. So Jupiter will conjunct Neptune April 12th, 2022. That energy gives us an expansion of our imagination. That can be for good or for not. So we will need to make sure that we're really paying attention to what dreams we're feeding and not always walking around with rose-colored glasses, because that's not going to be the best thing if we need to apply or exercise caution. Jupiter is also going to harmoniously aspect or sextile Pluto, the planet of transformation, May 3rd, 2022. And so that will be a point where we will see an expansion of some form of transformation. And that will be an interesting thing to take note of, particularly because this year for the United States, if you are tuning in from the States, everything that exists has a birth chart, including the United States of America. So going by the July 4th birth date from 1776, the US will be experiencing its first Pluto return. That is when Pluto returns to the very point that it was when the country was founded. And that takes so many years, hundreds of years. And so that'll be our first time ever. And I expect that will supercharge a lot of transformation for us. Additionally, the United States Neptune. So again, our thinking, our imaginal thinking, our dreams, our subconscious. So the country's subconscious, which has been going under dramatic transformations, will meet up with where Neptune is in the sky. That takes 165 years to happen, to have that return. And not only will it be meeting up in the sky, but it will be meeting up at the 22nd degree. So that makes 2022 a powerful date, both numerologically and astrologically. It's probably a day where things will feel hazy and very dreamy, and things may not be all that they seem. So it's important to note some of this information so that you can use it to the best of your ability moving ahead throughout 2022. The big takeaways of those dates are visionary expansion and harmonizing feelings about literally the current revolution of our financial systems. We are moving more and more into electronic transfer of funds, Bitcoin. Companies are creating cryptocurrencies. Countries are talking about eliminating physical dollars. We can expect to see more talk about that and more changes in our financial system, especially as we're still cleaning up from 2020 and 2021. There's a likely increase in the focus on our subconscious, our imagination, our dreams, and self-improvement, because Pisces, which Neptune rules, also really focuses on that. There's probably going to be a lot of further revealing of secret or behind the scenes structures in the United States, with Neptune coming back to the very point of our founding. There will be some things that have previously been unknown or unseen to us that will probably come to the fore. And again, that strong Pisces influence and the fact that we are dealing more with harmonizing sextiles and acting as one, conjunctions versus squares, which create tension. That will really help push these transformations in a more positive direction, which means if you were hoping that all this rapid change was going to slow down, I can't promise you that. But to know that change is trending in a more positive way can be welcomed for all of us. So when you think about that information and you want to know how to do stellar planning to apply everything that I just said to you, that's a global general view of the information, kind of like what you would get when you read a horoscope. To know what this is really going to mean for you, you need to ask yourself and answer a few of these questions. Where is 22 degrees Pisces in your chart? Where are 11 degrees Taurus and Pisces on your chart? Which houses are involved? And are there any natal planets here? What might these aspects of expansion and transformation mean for you as you know the landscape of your life? And then to bring in just a little bit of numerology, because it's going to be so prevalent next year with all of those twos, what do the number 2 and 22, what connections do you have with them? So, for example, I know my chart very well. For me, 22 degrees Pisces literally is a dividing line in my chart between my 10th house of career and my 11th house of friends. It is literally the marker in between. My dividing line is literally 22 degrees Pisces. So I know that I'm going to have some significant activation in between the two worlds of my friendships and my business. And that could be a positive thing. I will probably have to watch for, again, wearing rose-colored glasses or thinking that I've expanded too far when I have not. But I know that. Whereas 11 degrees Pisces is in my 10th house, and 11 degrees Taurus is in my 12th house, which rules your subconscious and your thinking. So for me, I know that I will have major themes related to career, friendship, my subconscious, the secret, and what's hidden just by looking at what's happening with the major aspects of next year. So that's how I take the major pieces of astrology and apply them directly to me in a personalized way to get a better understanding of what might be coming up for me in the new year. And these sets of questions are listed on the worksheet that I'll be providing you guys. So again, how do you really want to work with these energies? You want to pay attention to your dreams, your imagination, and your inner world. Just don't let it consume you. You want to remember that the last 2 years of teardown really require visionary thinking in order to rebuild our world. And the expansion and the imaginal energies that Jupiter and Neptune are going to bring us is really great fuel to start the process. However, that doesn't mean that we will see the outward manifestation of that this year. That's probably going to be much more likely into 2023 when there's less Neptune influence, because Neptune gives a soft, fuzzy kind of diffused influence, and it's more in our minds and in our hearts and in our dreams than it would be if we were talking about an earth sign like Capricorn or Taurus, which we came out of a Capricorn season where you're really experiencing things in real time in physical ways. So you need to make sure to adjust your own balance of realism and fantasy. 2 years of heavy dominant Saturn energy has made us become really focused on, well, that's just how it is, and maybe a little frustrated, and we need to bring back a little bit of magic and fantasy. I want to repeat this a number of times. Now is not the time to take a risk or gamble, no matter how lucky you feel. Jupiter has a tendency to make us feel expansive and like we can win no matter what. And waistlines tend to expand. Our spending tends to expand with Jupiter alone. When Jupiter is going to meet up with Neptune, which can give you foggy and rose-colored glasses and make you think that you're invincible, there's a tendency for you to do things that you may not be able to take back. So you really want to watch out for that. Again, image the expansive, unique, and transformed world that you want to live in. Expansive represents Jupiter. Unique would represent the Uranus influence, and transformed is Pluto. We're going to get all three of those. Expansion, uniqueness and eccentricity, and a whole lot of transformation. Now that you know that those are parts of the energetic container of 2022, you want to ask yourself, what do I want? Knowing that's the energy that I'm working with, what would be wonderful in my life to be transformed? And how can I envision that in such a way where I am working more manifestationally to will things in my way versus feeling like a victim of circumstance, the way that many of us ended up feeling in 2020 for those people who were caught off guard, as many people were, by what happened. Funny enough, astrologers saw it all in the stellar blueprint, which is one of the reasons why I'm making sure to bring this out so that people don't ever get caught slipping again. The last thing to remember is that everything that now was once a figment of someone's imagination. So please do not feel childish or underestimate the fact that this action is the core of manifesting. So if you really want to manifest big, then you need to spend time in your inner world. And the more time you spend there, the more you can make sure that you're monitoring so that you've got at least one foot on the ground with your head in the clouds. So I also, excuse me, I was trying to get down here to see if I could get to the chat because I saw that there was a question and I just wanted to check in. I had to do that. There we go. Just wanted it. Okay. Great. Gonna keep going here. So retrogrades in 2022. If any of you follow astrology, you probably know a little bit about retrogrades. Everybody does now because of Mercury retrograde. I like to refer to it as the pumpkin spice latte of astrology. But retrogrades are not just relegated to Mercury. A retrograde is when a planet appears to turn backwards in the sky. This happens again because of an optical illusion. Around the Earth's orbit and the planet's orbit. All the major planets go retrograde. The sun and the moon are not planets, so they do not go retrograde, but they have their own pausing periods. But all the major planets, not just Mercury, but every planet does. And when planets retrograde, the impact of the planet changes as the energy is moving backwards and not forward. So it's important to know what to do to utilize this time to the best of your ability and to make sure you're lining your intentions, your goals, and your plans up, again, with the energetic container and blueprint that is in front of you. And that is why having a calendar alone doesn't always cut it when it comes to our plans, because calendars alone can't always give us this info. So, retrograde season is when many planets go into retrograde at the same time. From year to year, that length of time changes. It's based on where planets are in their planetary cycle. So, for instance, this year, which is almost last year, we had about 4 solid months of retrograde season between relatively, so to speak, well, six or so. Later April, like the season happened there, but once we got to June through about September, that was where we experienced multiple planets in retrograde for 2021. This year it'll be about 7 months long. It will be starting in late June and it will be going until December. Last year, we did not experience a Mars retrograde. We did have Mars retrograde in 2020. And that's part of the reason why I think the year was so hot and heavy, because Mars retrograded in the planet of the sign of war, Aries, and it stayed there for about 6 months. So many of us were hot and angry and agitated, whereas we got a little bit of a reprieve this year in 2021. 2022 will have us see every planet go into retrograde. And so, for instance, many of you will probably know Mercury retrograde Mercury is a communication planet. So when Mercury retrogrades, you want to avoid launching anything. You want to avoid signing contracts. You want to be leery with websites. And generally anything with technology is going to be difficult to deal with. However, what it's best for is researching, reviewing, planning, and doing prep work. Venus actually will be going into retrograde for us, which is why another reason why we're doing this before the 19th and before the holiday season really kicks in. It'll be going retrograde on the 19th of this month, and it will hang out there until January 29th. When Venus goes retrograde, that's the feminine lover in the sky. So it's how you attract people and what you find to be beautiful. You lack personal magnetism when Venus is going retrograde. So it's not a time to draw new people to you. It is a time to reach out to older people who you have a connection with, and you may find better energies there. Mars will be going retrograde, and again, in late October. And when Mars goes retrograde, it's the male lover in the sky, masculine lover in the sky. And I am talking about the energies of positive masculine forces and negative feminine forces, not gender. Mars is our planet of energy and drive and how we get things done. When Mars retrogrades, it's a good time to pause on taking outward action with projects and to check in with yourself about how your energy is running. What do you want to do? Then how do you want to strategize actions that you will take when the planet goes direct? Jupiter through Saturn, through Pluto, when they go retrograde, these planets, those are our outer planets. So from Jupiter down to Pluto, those outer planets going retrograde, they happen to retrograde for longer periods of time. And those are the ones that usually have to do with impact on world events. In all instances, emphasis is on the re-prefix. It is not a time to start things new, it's a time to recollect. And so if you know what the planet's energy is, you want to go inward, or you want to go the inverse of that in order to be able to really help yourself use the energy to the best of your ability. And this year will really come in handy when we hit retrograde season, because when you have 3 and 4 planets stacked up on top of each other in a retrograde, you may have a lot of ideas about what you want to get going, but it may be better to hold back and chill on those so that you can use some of the retrograde energy to give it a once over, or add a little bit of zhuzhing up so it will have magnetism when you come out of a space. You may find that you want to completely revolutionize it, but learning to work with this energy that causes us to go within is helpful, because I experience so many people trying to take action when they don't know that this is happening with a planet, only to feel thwarted or really frustrated that their plans aren't seeing the light of day. And that's because of what shows up as a result of not knowing the energetics behind the day that you're in. So we've got looking for stellar planning. We're looking at the major astrology, which is the year-long view. We look at the retrogrades as a big piece because those pieces happen. They happen globally for everybody, but they happen across the year and they add additional insight to the energetic container. And then when we really want to look at what's going to happen on a monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, or daily level, we want to start looking at the lunar cycles and one additional piece. So the lunar cycles, I mean, this is a practice that I work with because it is the moon is the main feminine energy in the zodiac, and it is the Earth's only satellite because, again, our moon, the moon is our moon. You know, Jupiter and Saturn, they have many moons. We only have one. The moon waxes and wanes. When you hear wax, that's the moon growing. When you hear wane, that means it's getting smaller. It waxes and wanes in really predictable cycles. It grows from dark to the dark of the new moon to full brightness or lunation in 2 weeks. And then it goes from that brightness back down to the darkness in another 2 weeks. New moons are best for setting intentions and manifesting, and full moons are best for releasing and letting go. So when you want to add in this information about planning with the lunar cycles, what you want to do is to take a look at each new moon where you want to set an intention, and then each full moon, which will happen 2 weeks later, where you want to like release your wish, blow out your candles, and allow things to start filling in. You want to look at where each one of them will fall in your birth chart, because they will fall in a different house. And this graphic here shows essentially the wheel, the circle in the middle is the Earth, the wheel around it is the map of the zodiac or the sky. Each one of those 12 slices is a house, an area that of life that we all have. That is how astrology is able to be so predictive. And through looking up each month the sign and the degree of the new moon and the full moon to see if it's happening in your house of partnership or your house of home, that will give you an indication in a month. Okay, the first 2 weeks are going to be focused on this, and the next 2 weeks are going to be focused on that. That gives you a better energetic understanding of the container for the month and on a bi-weekly rate. That way you can know what to expect and begin to start working with your plans accordingly. Here's an example using my own chart. So we're getting ready to have a full moon in Gemini on December 18th. That full moon in Gemini is at 27 degrees. I am a Scorpio with a Gemini rising. Let me see. Ooh, I'm going to have to. Oh, is it going to let me? Let's see if it'll let me out. Oh, and it's not wanting to let me out. Let's try that one more time. There we go. I'm going to admit one person, and I'm going to turn on my annotate because I wanted to be able to show you guys that. All right. So, let's turn that off because I don't think it's being that kind. All right. So, here in particular, I'm going to keep it in this mode. I might be able, okay, yeah, we'll come over here a little bit more so you guys can see. This is my chart. This area right here is Gemini. 27 degrees Gemini. If you can see, there are little tiny lines here all over this area. 27 degrees Gemini. My rising sign is at 16 degrees Gemini. And so 27 is going to be, this is going to be about 20 here. So 27 is probably going to be about here. That means this new moon, the full moon is going to fall in my first house. What that means is that this moon is going to be an opportunity for me to communicate about media, with any siblings or neighbors. And in particular, the energy is going to focus on myself, because the first house is literally the self or the head, your body, who you are, and your outward appearance. So all in all, this is actually a great time for me to be releasing anything, because you release during full moons any communication about myself for my first house and about business products that I have been developing over time, because I have a energetic invitation not to think about ideas, but to deliver things to the public at large. And of course, since the holiday season is coming up and I'll be communicating with extended family, which will definitely be featured in leading up to the solstice and any other winter holidays. Gemini not only rules siblings, but think cousins, aunts, uncles, any of those kinds of members of our extended family. So those energetics are going to be in play for me. And that's how I use the moon to be able to understand what's coming up for me. The last thing that I use in the stellar planning process, so now we've layered with the moon, you can figure out and break up the month in two pieces, from the new moon into the full moon. It'll also give you a good idea of where the energy turns. And then you want to drill down to this last piece, which is planetary days. Each planet has a day of the week named after it. Each of the known planets, before we discovered anything beyond Saturn, so Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, we had 7 planets. Each one of them has a day. Monday is Moon Day. One of the things that's crazy is that we start our work week on Monday, and Monday is really not a day for harsh starts. That's why, sounds like rainy days and Mondays always get me down. We usually can feel like our ass is dragging on a Monday, and that is because it really is a day for a slower start, to engage in self-care, to listen to your intuition, to interact with the divine feminine, meet with women, whether you are a male identifying or female identifying person. It's the feminine body. Tuesday is Mars Day. And that's actually the day that you should be our Monday in traditional work week. You'll get that Martian energy. Mars is the planet of action and assertiveness and motivation. So working on projects and getting going on a Mars day is really what you want. By Tuesday, you're usually in the groove. Mercury day is Wednesday, and those days are days for communication. Communication, signing contracts, traveling. So if you're somebody who does, sends out emails, releases videos, does streaming, anything like that, you want to get your word across, you want to get it clear, then you want to do it on a Wednesday. Thursday is a Jupiter rule day. If you can schedule a class on this day or do anything related to learning or expanding an area of your life, that is one of the best ways to use Jupiterian energy. Venus is Friday, and that is a day for beauty and pleasure, creativity. It is no wonder that hair salons and nail salons and other things are overflowed with people. Sometimes you just think it's because of the end of the week, but actually there is a natural and magnetic pull, based on what we were talking about earlier with Venus, to call you to want to do those things on her day. It's a great day to take off, which many of us do. Venus also rules money. So if you want to do money stuff, it's a really good day to do money stuff, whether that's make money moves, invest money, or do things to attract it. Saturday is Saturn's day. It's the day for structure and planning and organizing. If you were here from the beginning, you heard me talk a lot about how Saturn can sometimes be a buzzkill, and it always wants us to be traditional. It wants us to have a plan, and it limits things and structures things. That it it didn't give us the biggest sense of joy while playing out across the world stage, but we all need structures to thrive. So, you know, Saturday is a good day to set up systems. If you work for yourself, it could be a good day, like swapping your Monday for a Saturday can be really like turn Monday into your day off to do things and use the energy of Saturday to plan things and get things accomplished. And then the final day is Sunday, which of course is the sun's day. It is a day of rest. It's also the day of self, right? So whatever your self, the sun rules the self. It's the center of our solar system, and similarly, it is the core of us. What does your self really want to do? What do you want to engage in? How do you want to show up? What do you want to be? Think about doing that on that day. So when you layer all of these processes together, you're then in this space of using applied astrology with what I like to call the stellar year blueprint. And there are some additional pieces that I have in a full out stellar year blueprint formula, but stellar planning, again, is a way to take some of the really far out things that we talk about, that people in astrology talk about, and turn them into easily applied applications so that you can use this information for your benefit. Again, let's see. I may end up, I'm gonna stop. Oops, and I just messed up my slide, but that's okay. I'm gonna stop sharing here, and I'm going to share with you all a few pieces that I have on the worksheet. And I'm also going to drop that into the links for that into our chat right now. So let's see about getting those up for you. Okay, here we go. All right. So I'm going to drop into the chat right now for everybody the workshop worksheet and the stellar year blueprint. And you guys are getting the stellar year blueprint just a few days earlier because you all are here, and I appreciate you being here early. So I'm going to share this with you all right now, what's on the worksheet, so you can know what to expect with that. All right, let's share it. So this corresponds to all of the stuff that we have been talking about here, and it will also correspond to the 2022 stellar year blueprint. These are all of those questions that I just talked about. It'll give you some information about the aspect highlights, so that you can refer to them, and those questions to ask about where those degrees are in your chart, and help you think through that process. It's giving you the chart of where all of the retrogrades are and what needs to happen with all of those. I've noticed that there is a slight error there with the dates, but I will make sure that if that is not the right one, that I will send out the properly formatted one to you for the chart. But this also gives you information about how to work with those retrogrades and to take a look at your chart to see what areas or houses. I've also made sure to do some of the heavier lifting for you, which is to give you, at least for Eastern Standard Time, if you are elsewhere, then you will have to check in on that. And I can I think in the Stellar Blueprint, there's a link that lets you know where else you can go to check out the timing. These are the dates, the sign, the degree, and the timing for the moon, the new and full moons for all of 2022, and an area that allows you to talk about, write in what house is being activated in your chart. So if you do a little bit of planning here and fill all of this out, you can continue to go back to this and use it as an ongoing reference for you so that you're able to see what energies are going to be coming up. And last but not least, just as I provided, the Planetary Days and what that piece looks like. So that's all that you're going to be getting in that piece. And so I'm going to pop back over to share the slide presentation again so we can close things out and I can take any questions that anybody has. Okay. So I just want to say why applied astrology to everybody. Applied astrology is important because astrology is a very, very, very old art and science. And most of us forget that it is truly the origin of the calendar system, our clocks and time system, and any planning systems that we had. This is the first system that humans had to understand where they were at in place and time and understand energies. And I can only imagine how scary that was when you didn't have a satellite and you didn't have a telescope and you didn't know what was happening when an eclipse occurred. But there were so many people who tracked all this information for us that we, over millennia, that we are now able to see the regular, repeatable, and predictable patterns that happen. And with that much time and knowledge under its belt, we're able to apply it in our modern day lives in a way that they may not have been able to in the past. Astrology, had died down earlier on in the 20th century, but it is really growing all over again. Astrology, it is important to remember, it works on precision. Your birth chart with the proper information is an incredibly accurate and specific timing and predictive tool for planning and for a whole bunch of other things. So the more that you know about this, the more you can understand what's happening with your world. I think interest in astrology has grown definitely through the pandemic. I know that's the case for me in my practice, and because people are getting more comfortable with Zoom, been able to do more readings and things of that nature. And I have clients return again and again to gain insights into their astrology and how it's impacting their lives. And I think the last 2 years have really made that paramount for people. So I hope that what I have provided for all of you guys is something of value that ultimately makes sense and helps you to think about how you can, from a high level, look at everything that's going to be happening with the energetic container of the year and continue to bring that down into a monthly level, bi-weekly, weekly, and daily level, which is an overlay that really turns your planning and your calendar into something way more dynamic than just a bunch of squares and boxes with dates to help orient us to what we're supposed to do. Because if you could know what the feel of the day was and what to expect, you've got advance notice to be able to make shifts if you're not feeling great, if the energy isn't working with you. And that's the power of astrology. And so at this point, I'd love to be able to tell you guys a little bit about how you can work with me in 2022, which is fast approaching. And so there are 3 ways I would suggest you working with me if you'd like to use applied astrology to make your life easier. First and foremost, I hope the free materials that I have provided for you guys will be of great use to you and can serve as a reference material going forward. For those of you who don't necessarily want to have to put all of the work in to do this and apply it for yourself, you can get a year ahead reading with me. And it's an opportunity for me to do some of the hard work of going through all of this. And then we sit down and we'll review it in a 60 to 90 minute session. Part two of that is if you really enjoyed the content here, then you will love what I have in my self-study astrology and planning course, which blends my desire mapping work of free and clear and the desire map with the stellar year blueprint. It goes deeper than just stellar planning. And deeper into the astrology of 2022 with more information about what the planetary aspects are going to do. It also will provide you with tools to really then, once you understand the energetic container, create goals with soul by doing a review of the end of the year to really help you understand what's working and what's not working for you and clear the slate, and then to get you in a led process to try to identify, what do I really want to accomplish for this year? And that's available on my website, my astrology school, the Wisdom Beacon. For anybody who really enjoyed the stuff that I was speaking about related to the moon, I have the Lunar Wisdom Formula ebook, which is just $27, and it goes even deeper into lunar planning and talking about lunar manifestations, and it comes complete with additionally new moon and full moon worksheets, and it digs into understanding aspects about eclipses, their impact, and how to work with them. And then the final way that you could potentially work with me is in my upcoming course called Your Stellar Birthright, unlocking access to your personalized life instruction manual through astrology. I cannot say enough about that process, but I will quickly just go through a few of these things. So this is the online version of the stellar year, the 2022 stellar year blueprint with free and clear in the desire map. You get a complete workbook to capture all of your ideas. There are about 19 multimedia lessons for you to go through each step of the blueprint, know exactly what you want to do and what you want to get out of that. You'll get 2 meditation processes to help you turn on your inner light during this dark time of year, and to just help you in creating your own container inside of that which we're understanding. And the product is available from now until, the late November, early December of next year. So you have a year-long access to that. Additionally, for the next step in doing that, if you decide that you want to go deeper, either in planning your year, or you would be interested in going deeper in looking at your birth chart, and who doesn't want a life an instruction manual? I mean, like, we joke, kids don't come with manuals. People don't come with manuals. When we're in relationship, we wish we had a manual. You do. You have a manual. It's called your birth chart. And so your Stellar Birthright is a 12-week online program that is self-paced, that is designed to help you take a deep dive into learning about your astrological personality, your life blueprint, and your birthright. Like, who are you really supposed to be? Not, if you're not working a job that you love, what is it that you're really supposed to be down here doing and contributing? And the more we learn about ourselves, the better our life can be, because we know we can start making choices that are based on what we really want, not based on our programming or the things that we've been told for years and years. So, maybe you want to learn more about yourself or your soul purpose to get aligned in your business or in your personal life. Maybe you just want to add, some more techniques to your toolkit because you're a big student of personal development and insight. Or maybe you want to be able to have an option to work with a professional astrologer to go beyond self-study. That'll keep you accountable and lift you up and guide you on a pathway to unlocking this life instruction manual so you can start using it from 2022 on. There are 2 levels of this program that we would be able to use. So the end products of this would be that you will have the keys to unlock your life instruction manual, know how to really integrate and understand your personality, and get some permission slips for if you find out that you have Mars in your communication house, you'll understand why you talk a lot. And instead of being frustrated with yourself, you can start embracing the unique parts of you because there's only one version of you. And when you learn to navigate and read your own birth chart, you have stellar GPS. You can navigate life's ups and downs with a bit more ease and grace. You know what things you've got in the bag, not just from life experience, because you can see them written in your chart. What are the resources that you can use? And then some that you don't always remember because they're not evident to be able to turn that on. There are 2 options for this program. There's the wise initiate who just wants to learn at their own pace and figure out what your stellar birthright holds for personal growth and development. And then there's the wise apprentice that wants to dig in deeper with your stellar birthright and get some targeted astro coaching sessions from me about your chart specifics and how to work with that energy. So which level would be right for you? If you're new to astrology and need a little bit more clarity about yourself or your life purpose and want to explore that through the lens of the stars, then the wise initiate would be great. If you want to dive in deep immediately and have accountability and work with someone who can coach you from a practical and intuitive place, then the wise apprentice would be a great deal. Again, there's so many things that I'm going to be able to cover during this piece, including learning how to read your birth chart and use it as a continual reference for your life. Aspects of stellar planning, so tracking planetary cycles in your life, tracking how they work in your home life, at work, how to develop your intuition. There's so many things that exist in your birth chart at the time that you were born that can create greater ease and joy and success in your life. It would be my joy to be able to help you in identifying that and using that information as we move into the Aquarian age, where I believe astrology will continue to see a resurgence and where we will start working with this ancient science again in bigger ways. What's included in both of these programs? So for the Wise Initiate, you get 12 online instruction modules. You will get 2 live astrology readings with me, 1 birth chart reading and 1 annual transit reading. You'll have a curated resource library inside of the program, and then content access for the lifetime of that program. The major difference between the apprentice providings are that you will get 3 1-hour to 90-minute astro coaching sessions with me in addition to the online portal so that you can work out questions and concerns, and we can really dig even deeper into some of the things that exist within your chart. So today, because it's early bird, the program prices are for early birds. If you pay in full as a Wise Initiate, the program is $14.97 or 4 payments of $415. for 12 payments of $183. And this offer will be good until 1/12/22. If you choose to do the Wise Apprentice version, the early bird version paid in full is $19.97. And or 4 payments of $649.25 or 12 payments of $216. With either option, you would be saving $700 to $900 off of where the price will go once 1/12 hits. Additionally, there for the early bird special, and I think it's here, bonuses, you'll be able to get, for the first 5 people who sign up, you will receive a free year ahead reading with me, and that's only for paid in full, which is valued at $225. You will also get the Stellar Year Blueprint Workshop online for free up until January 12th. You'll get the full 4 meditation suite of guided meditations from Danielle Laporte and my Desire Map programming, and the option to have extended payment plan over 12 months rather than 10, and saving an extra 30%. After the 12th, prices will go up to what I had listed from before. And just so we're clear, your stellar birthright is going to include, again, videos, exercises, step-by-step directions, and essentially each module is going to focus on a major theme that is necessary for you to understand your birth chart and to understand what that means for you, whether that's attraction and action with Mars and Venus, or expansion in your soul's purpose, looking at Saturn and Jupiter. Again, Uranus is the liberation of the soul, since it's a revolutionary, divine inspiration with Neptune. In going through this step by step, we will build, using your chart, what are the specifics for you, so that you have an even deeper understanding of yourself, and that you see parts of yourself that only you know represented in your chart, which gives us a feeling of recognition and the permission to be ourselves, especially the parts of us that we only see within us, that are unique and supposed to be ours. But when we are looking out into the environment and we don't see other people having them, we want to keep them hidden because we're looking for someone else like us, when in reality, there's only one of each and every one of us. And so, you're the only person that you can be. And it's the only job that isn't taken. I find that astrology helps people to become more familiar with that, so that they can trust and step into being unapologetically themselves. So a couple of quick questions that I've gotten thus far are, if I'm running any of the content individually this year, aside from the Stellar Year Blueprint and my Eclipse season class, I am not planning on running any of the modules in your Stellar Year Birthright independently. The program will start on February 1st. But if you do the early bird purchase, you'll be able to dive right into the Stellar Year Blueprint as of December 16th when it goes live. And if you don't know much about astrology, is this for you? Yes. This training is about becoming more aligned with yourself and the soul work that you're here to do. So it's a great way to dig into who you are, what you want to be. And as someone who works both as a coach and a therapist, this can be a refreshing view for people because it's more of a strengths-based focus and not so clinical. And if you like the sound of any of this and want to join any of the offerings that I have, you'll be able to find links for any of the programs in the in the worksheets that I provided, so you can click over there and take a look. Now, I just want to check in. I'm going to stop screen sharing and ask if there are, and check in and see if there are any questions. Oh, all right. I had a Swedish person. How lovely. So she had to go. But I wanted to check in and ask if there were any questions from anyone who has been here that I might be able to answer, so that I can honor your time, because I know I went slightly over. Oh, I'm so grateful to be able to share my knowledge with you and to share the power of astrology. I'm a person who grew up with astrology in my house. My mother is probably my first astrologer. I can't even find I have a copy of the book that I used to use all the time. So this is so natural to me, and I have always found it extremely helpful. And this planning process, I think, is extremely intuitive. And as we're getting back into the world at large, I hope that it brings you some positivity and senses of joy. I really appreciate everybody who took the time out to be here with me. I have recorded this, so it will probably go up on my YouTube page, and I will see about sending you guys a link to that so you have a review of it, just so that you can hear this information. But if there aren't any more questions, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to potentially seeing you guys in some of the new offerings that I have for you in 2021 and 2022. Take care and blessed be. Good night.